Hey everybody, it is Wintermute coming to you from the think tank. And today what I'm going to do is I'm going to revisit some changes that are made to the doctrines. Now, what I did do is I put all the doctrines into one master list, and then I just made a note at the end of which countries receive it. This will help me keep things a little more organized as I update and present certain ideas. So obviously, anything that's highlighted is different, and I did go through, and when I did these, I didn't necessarily highlight the ones because some of these were added to various lists which I'll address as we kind of move forward. For anything that I think has changed or remembers changing is adding it to this list and that list. So right now, seat for every soldier is the same. Accurate artillery. Oh, I also did go through and I added tentative point values to each one of the doctrines. Now, as of right now, I am going to review doctrine points and how I plan on them actually being enacted before I do those. I almost forgot that. So this is doctrine points. Each major power has access to a number of doctrine points, which they may use to put doctrines into play throughout the game. The major Axis powers each start the game with 20 doctrine points. The Commonwealth begins the game with 20 points, but the USSR and USA each start with 10. The number of doctrine points available to a major power becomes 30 once they're at war with another major power. A nation's doctrine points may be spent during the production phase. Simply spend the number of points equal to the costs of the chosen doctrine and write it down, but do not reveal it. Okay, I don't know how I misspelled that, but do not reveal it to your opponents. Only reveal a purchased doctrine the first time you would be called upon to receive its benefit. The owner of a doctrine may opt not to reveal it when called to do so, but in doing so they forgo any benefit from it. Once a doctrine is revealed, it remains that way until discarded. During your production phase, you may choose to discard a purchased doctrine, even one that has not yet been revealed. If discarded, you are refunded all points spent to purchase the doctrine. Points refunded this way may not be spent on new doctrines in the same turn they are refunded. So, right now, the max number of doctrines for any points for any country at war is 30. Now, the way I've kind of scored the doctrines, most of the better doctrines are about 10 points. There's one or two that are 15 because I think they're really good. But, I mean, all that is debatable and may change as things move on. Now, obviously, the Axis all start with 20 each. And the Commonwealth begins with 20. So they're about on par with each other. USSR and USSR starts at 10 because they are so not on a war footing. And then the USSR starts at 10 because they are also very much not on a war footing, but at the same time, they are also at their purges are taking place or about to take place. And, it's just a mess over there. So, obviously, those two nations start with a slight disadvantage in doctrines overall. Right now, I don't know if that disparity between the starting totals is going to be a huge factor because, if you recall, I deliberately made doctrines. I don't want any one doctrine to be very dominating. If a particular like every German player takes that doctrine every game, well, then either we need to probably updo its points, reduce the cap and how effective it is, or just modify it again, just so that things are balanced. I want every doctrine to be a viable choice in terms of your overall strategy for the game and tactics for the game. So, also, there is basically you have to skip a turn where you don't have doctrine points that you're cashing back in. You don't get to spend them. That's the penalty for implementing a new doctrine is, once you get rid of the old ones, they aren't reenacted for a whole turn. Again, that's just so that there isn't this constant swapping out of doctrines to kind of min-max advantages. They should be a little more well thought out and deliberate, in my opinion. And rather than this constant free for all of trying to min max things, if that ends up being the case, obviously I would want to change things so that that doesn't work that way. Now, again, back to the point totals. The really good ones are about 10. So at 30 points, you would only have 3 doctrines in play. That's it. Only 3 of the better doctrines. Now, obviously, if you pick a lot of the smaller doctrines, they will be less effective each on their own, but you might have 6 of them in play. And it kind of goes back to, what you think is and how you want to leverage using these during your game. So that's how I actually see implementing doctrines at this point. And again, none of that is set in stone. We'll discuss whether or not we think those are good point totals, or whether maybe something else needs to be changed. So now back to the actual doctrines themselves. So seat for every soldier is 10 points, accurate artillery is 10 points, air reconnaissance, I don't have that one pointed yet, but I did update it. During the attack phase, any medium or heavy bomber may move into an opponent's land zone, which has an IPP value, and roll an attack. Heavy bombers hitting on a 7 or less. If successful, gain 1 intel point against that nation up to a maximum of the land zone's IPP value. This option may be used when not at war with the target major power. And basically everybody at this point has that option. I gave it to all the nations, all the major powers, excuse me. Amphibious armor is the same. I gave it a point value of 7. Armored cars, I gave them a point value of 5, and I reduced their cost to 3. Now, everything else stayed the same for them. The only other thing that is different is you'll see this 4 with the 2 asterisks next to it. If you are not going to use, now in my mind, if you're not going to use the missions module, then you should go with the lower value, because armored cars, in theory, would have less value. I did that with a couple of these doctrines based on which set of rules you're going to implement, kind of like I said in my last video, or the other video, where I'm going to break them down into modules. I don't know if I'm going to keep it this way or not, but that's kind of the idea of how it is right now. At all costs, basically, I give that 5 points for Russia. Better leadership. Okay, now this one is almost counterintuitive to what I had said in my video about keeping things simple and some of the design ideas. However, it is somewhat historical, and I like the idea. So I'm going to read it as is, and then hopefully get some feedback as to maybe a way of paring it down or simplifying it, or maybe it's just wordy because it needs to be wordy, even though it's a simple concept. So, better leadership. Now this is for Italy only. During your production phase, you may designate up to 3 Italian land units as being under German command. To do this, there must be at least 1 German land unit in the same zone as your Italian units. These Italian units gain +1 to their attack and defense so long as there are at least 1 German land unit in the same land zone, and they may only move an attack on the German turn. Okay, you know what? I'm already going to... I put German land or Italian land units. I think I'm going to change that to Italian infantry units only. That'll kind of rein it in a little. But okay, that's just an idea that I need to kind of revisit. These Italian units may still benefit from Italian doctrines, but not German doctrines. The Italian player may retake command of any or all of these land units during any of their place units phase. If for any reason there are no German land units in the same land zone as the Italian units under their command at the end of any turn phase, then they immediately lose all bonuses and may not move again until the Italian player retakes command of them at the end of their next place units phase. So, and the way that last sentence is deliberately worded is so that there are no way that the Italian units can move and attack twice in the same overall turn. Either they do it on the German turn with the bonuses, or basically they skip that turn, but then something happens and they lose then they skip that turn when it comes to the Italian player, and then the Italian player retakes command of them at the end of that phase. So that was worded that way. Obviously, this one this kind of did happen, that the Italians did follow German leadership down in North Africa and fought better when they did. But this is also a little, this may be one of the biggest blocks of writing I've done so far. So I don't know how I feel about the overall thing, even though I like the concept and the overall concept itself. So that's the one of the Italian only ones. Black shirts is the same, but it's worth 10 points. Cold climate training, worth 10. You may build one ski unit per turn. Now this is for Germany and Russia. You may build one ski unit per turn. Attack 2, defense 4, movement 1, cost 4, infantry class. Gain +1 attack and defense in any land zone touching the top edge of the map and or which any tundra terrain is present. Also gain this bonus in any part of Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, and the land zones of Kola and Karelia in Russia. Ski units may also perform missions in any of these preceding land zones. So with this, they're basically like mountain infantry, but they're limited to the northernmost parts of the map and places where they historically did operate. So they're, that's, cold climate training is if Germany and Russia want to take that one. Combined arms is the same, available to everybody. Counter intel operations. Again, this one, I put a note next to it because it should only be available if you are not playing, or if you are playing with Intel points. If you're not going to play with the Intel points module, then this one wouldn't really work. That's the only kind of note that I added to that one, and I made that one 6 points. So a new one for Germany is Das Autobahn. Up to 3 land units may use this ability per turn during the combat movement or non-combat movement phase. The first time a German unit moves from a German home country land into another German home country land zone, it costs no movement points. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. I made Deception Tactics, which is 1 for Russia, 15, because I think it's really good, potentially really good. But again, that might need to be pared down or reduced overall. Dedicated Scouts, I made 5. Reroll a failed scout mission once. Right now, that one is only for Japan. Diffused Production. I talked a lot about that one in the video where I talked about the concepts of rules concepts that I'm kind of working with here. So I won't go on and on about that one. Depth Charge. During each combat, up to 3 of your destroyer units gain an additional attack. And again, this goes back to me putting an inherent cap on all the rules so nothing can be overly abused. You can opt as a player to go, you know what, I want to maximize that bonus every combat. So I want to make sure that there's 3 destroyer units with grouped together with my fleets. But then anything more than that, they just operate like regular destroyers. So you can take that and put it into any kind of combat where there's a limit on the number of units that get a bonus. So now Elite Training, that one stayed the same, but again, I was looking at the kind of costs, and if you're not going to use missions, then it should be less. Again, not sure if that's going to stay that way. And I also gave that one to Japan. I don't know if they had that on their list. Escort Cruisers. Now this one I changed. Up to 3 of your cruisers, light and heavy, gain 1 anti-air attack hitting at a 3 or less during the first round of naval combat. Again, there's that cap. Now, I think all the navies are pretty much going to get this one except Russia. So maybe, I don't know about Germany. Exploitation Movement, I made the cap for that one too, because I felt that 3 might be a little too strong. Foreign volunteers, and I talked about this one as well in that last video. Germany may build 1 colonial infantry unit per turn. This colonial infantry will only cost 3 IPP. This is going to change the way I had originally had it written pretty dramatically. Fortified factories, again, a split value, but not 100% sure if it's going to stay that way. This is one I added to Germany. Flak Tower AA, 5-4 split value, facility, cost of 2, may build 2 per turn. When built, place under a facility already on the board or currently under construction. The inherent AA of that facility now gains +1 to its target number to hit against any strategic bombing targeting that facility, i.e. at 4. Additionally, any successful attempt to seize a facility with a flak tower present must be re-rolled. A flag tower may not be targeted independent of the facility it is built at. And I had submitted a rule very similar to this as a suggestion to Doug. So I decided, you know what, let me transfer it to this. I think it makes sense. And yeah, it explains itself pretty well. Most of these are kind of the same. Gliders, hidden airbase. You can see now that I added the point values. I'm not sure if those point values are going to stay. Island tunnels, mech combat, mountain home, mountain tactics. They all have their values added to them. Offshore support. This was an America-only one. Up to 3 destroyers may pair 1-to-1 with infantry-class units during an amphibious assault to grant +1 attack on the first round of combat only. Again, the rules themselves, the core concept didn't change, but we put the cap of up to 3 destroyers. Same thing with on-call strikes. During each combat, up to 3 of your artillery or advanced artillery may support up to 2 infantry-class units, basically doubling that bonus. Same concept. Opening barrage. Okay, this is one that I put in for Russia. Up to 2 of your artillery class units cause an opponent's ground units to become demoralized on the first round of combat only. A demoralized unit suffers -1 to its attack and defense. Each demoralized token must be placed onto separate targets. And demoralized is actually an HBG roundel or token marker, that I need to add there. I need to add the number for it there. And that's a Russia-only a Russian-only doctrine. Paratrooper operations stay the same. Pressed service. Once per city per turn, you may reduce the cost of any facility built or being built by 1, or you may place 1 fieldwork marker so long as that facility or fieldwork marker is in that city land zone or adjacent to that city land zone. Fieldwork markers, I brought them up when I introduced the possibility of an engineer unit. This is still a solid rule, even with or a bonus, even without being able to place the option of fieldwork markers. That's just there because I think it makes sense that they could do things like that. Because there were a lot of defenses that civilians built around, like Leningrad, and a lot of that took place during the war on various sides. So again, you can use that ability to reduce cost of facilities or place fieldwork markers if you're going to play with the engineer module. POW cants basically stayed the same. Prototype radar stayed the same. Prototype research. The only real difference with this one and why it's highlighted is I added it to pretty much at this point. I think it should be added to all the major powers, although on this list I don't have Russia and Italy as an option. I'm still debating that one. And this is one of the few doctrines that has a built-in limitation to it, not just a cap, but an actual trade-off. That being, or prerequisite, meaning you need level 2 of the following technologies, and if you're going to build the unit, it's going to cost more. And I think that this is there. A lot of people have already said they like this idea, but it definitely, I feel, needs some mitigating factors to keep it in check. I also don't know if I specifically, I allude to it, but I don't specifically mention, you can only have 1 of each prototype, or 1 of a particular prototype of each type of unit, period. So it's not like you can build 6 advanced artillery prototypes. You only get 1. That's it. There's a cap of just 1 that you build earlier than you normally would at a higher cost. I don't think I made that clear in the way I wrote this, but I do need to add that to make it clear. Excuse me. Schwerpunkt, German-only doctrine. Up to 2 light armor may now blitz, and each combat. And 2 light armor units count as 1 medium armor for pairing with other units. Gives Germany more flexibility with what units they can blitz, but doesn't allow you to build a stack of light armor and then just go to town in a way that maybe break the rules or be unrealistic. So I built that cap straight into it. Scorched Earth is the same. Shock troops is the same. Tactical bombers. I talked a lot about that one in the last video I did, so I won't go there. Tactical freedom. Again, this one is dependent on whether or not you're actually using missions. Tankettes is the same. So Underground Factories is going to be completely reworked like the Japanese diffused production. So all that is going to go away. Veteran Remnants. Now this one again, a split value based on the modules. I did add versatile anti-aircraft artillery, basically to everybody. Everybody's going to get that. Wartime preparations. This is one I added to the Commonwealth. It's very expensive, but it's also very good. Gain the following bonuses at each level of the wartime economy technology. These bonuses do not stack and may be received when not at war with a major power. Level 1, no bonus. Level 2, plus 1 IPP during the collect income phase. And level 3, plus 1d3 IPP during the collect income phase. And then if you hit level 4, all this evaporates and you're basically just getting the full bonus from being at war during full-time economy. Not 100% sure I like this one, but I'm going to just put it out there and see what kind of feedback I get. Now, weak infantry and, where is it? What was it? Outdated artillery, which I don't know. I somehow didn't get outdated artillery on this map, or on this list. I need to do that. Those are two doctrines for Italy, which do not, and which I have not put a cap on of limiting it. The reason being is because all your infantry units attack and defend at -1 and cost 2 IPP. Same thing with the weak artillery. It affects all your units. And I realized the other day that I needed to answer the question of how does that affect units on the board? 1, and 2, what if they get rid of this doctrine? What happens? Do you now have, and I'm avoiding having to have, or even the possibility of having, two different types of infantry and artillery for the basic level infantry and artillery for Italy, where you have chips representing weak infantry, and then chips representing regular infantry, chips representing outdated artillery, and then chips representing, up-to-date artillery, in addition to having to have advanced artillery and advanced self-propelled artillery and things like that. So I might have to rethink how this one works. And I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do that, whether or not you kind of either take it at the beginning of the game or you don't, and then it sticks. Same thing with outdated artillery. You may just need to kind of, I don't know. So any suggestions anybody has on that one would be fantastic. Though I like the concept. This one, those two doctrines kind of stand out on their own as being very different than the others. That's deliberate, but how to implement them yet may still be a little. There's still some answers that need to be or questions about how to implement it properly. So those are all the core doctrines. Again, what I would like is feedback on any of those and any of those changes. Feedback on any doctrines you think need to be added, any you think maybe aren't great. And we'll kind of go from there and keep this discussion going. I'm going to have an update on the channel in a day or two about kind of where we stand with things and what we're going to do going into the next step. But in the meantime, let's hear your feedback on this. Again, my email is below if you want to contact me directly rather than posting directly online. And I also have a link to the documents that I put online if anybody wants to use them for their game as reference sheets or any kind of modifications that they want to make. And great, this is Wintermute signing off.